Hi, mortals, and welcome to another Mondays in the Mortal Realms. We're really excited about today's episode because it's been nice that AOS has finally got a break with releases.
Yeah.
For like a month and a half there, we just covered Warcom because so much stuff is coming out. But now we get to do all kinds of psychotic stuff that we like to do. And today, we're going to take every War Tome,
Yep. And
Battle
read them
Tome,
live.
and
So buckle up.
yeah, but in an interest to save time, Steven's gonna read one while I read another, and we're gonna
Yeah.
do that at the same time.
Yes.
Whoever gets Stormcast is gonna be a while.
Yeah. You have to do like 3 or 4 while one person
We won't.
cries through
We're not gonna.
Stormcast.
We're not gonna have the camera on it either. The camera's gonna stay here. So yeah, that's what we want to do. And now the full disclosure, we're not doing it just based on. Steven didn't want to do it based on purely competitiveness. I agreed with him. That's not super interesting.
No.
It's been done a million
Yeah,
times.
yeah. There's loads of those out there.
We want to do it based on, frankly, for lack of a more mature word, just simply how cool the book is.
Yeah, like, how it plays, how it all feels cohesively as a book. What the lore is like. A big thing for me is how does the army play, how it's represented in
Yes,
the lore, because
big.
I feel like that's always something that I really enjoy with a faction. If I read the lore and I'm like, wow, this faction's really cool, and then it plays completely differently on the tabletop, I kind of lose that excitement.
I agree with this.
So that was a big thing.
Yeah.
And then also playability, but enjoyment factor for both you playing the army, but also for your opponent, because there's some armies out there, Seraphon, that are really fun to play, but are miserable to experience.
Yeah.
So, that was also a big factor. What were the other conditions we had?
I think that was it. I think it was.
Like the variety in sub-factions and like
exactly.
options that you have to customize how you want to play the army.
Yeah.
That was a big one.
Actually, Stephen, while Saul has made this comment, now tell me the monster mash list for every faction. This is actually something we should do closer to Halloween.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Make a bunch of monster lists. I have to say, a lot of people, this has been coming up weirdly in our Discord. A few people have been asking, what armies can you make an all monster? And there's actually a lot of them.
There's loads, yeah.
There's loads. Okay, before any of that, let's chat a little bit of Warcom, though, because there was some stuff happening in the Mortal Realms on Warhammer community this week. There are these releases of these games. Have you ever played any of these? These are like the Barnes and Nobles games.
No, I haven't. I haven't played them. But I love that they exist. I love that they're out there. Every time I go in Barnes and Noble and I see them, I'm kind of like happy about it, because it's cool that they have this sort of real cheap entry level like starter board game version of like some core systems for people to sort of get and experience, which is fun.
Somewhere there's a GW sales guy going, Steven, I'm glad you love that they exist.
Yeah, I just validated someone's whoever decided that these were an idea.
Matt Rose is like, nice, but the sales guy's like, great. That's really great that he loves that they exist, but I need people to buy them.
No, well, they're not targeted. I'm not the audience for these things.
I don't think so, right?
But they are cool. And I like that they update them pretty. Like, we get like new ones I feel like it's every year.
They have these for 40K too, and they must be getting bought. I mean, my guess is that one day you and I are going to be grognards, and just like we got into it through things like Hero Quest,
yeah,
someone's going to be like, oh yeah, I had this Warhammer Underworlds, I had this set. There's no name on this. What is this like? I had the Death Gorge set, right? I got it for Christmas, and I played me and my neighbor, me and my little brother, and it was just like, that's what we did.
Yeah, like when I eventually have like, nieces, nephews or whatever, and like they reach a certain age, I'm gonna be that uncle or whatever who buys these things, because it's like they're like, I don't know, they're like $20-$30, so it's like
they're not much.
They're a good little gift. They're a cool little thing, and they promote interactivity and play
Are
and
the
stuff.
the models, I think, are actually also a color in these.
Yeah, they are like colored plastic.
So if you don't paint, you can see clearly the two different. Yeah,
but they're like really nice sculpts. Like they repackaged the warbands from older Shadespire and stuff. So like the 40K one, they did a new model. They did, because it's the captain, I forget his name, from Space Marine. The latest one they did, there's a new model of him from Space Marine 2. and the new Hormagaunts in the board game box.
Oh, interesting.
So it's like they don't just like repackage stuff. There's like they're entirely new
do some new
sculpts
stuff,
like
yeah.
that didn't exist.
Yeah, but I think that's a good idea, actually, getting these as Christmas gifts for the little ones in your life. Now, this I'm excited about. I'm actually excited about this for a few reasons and curious. First of all, I have in this stack the new Cities book.
Yep.
And I think the Wildercore Hunters are actually kind of good.
Yeah.
I think they might cost a little too much compared to 10 Steel Helms, but they've got a 5-inch pregame move. You can't see them when they're in cover.
Yep.
They get +1 rend to their shooting weapons in cover.
I think this unit's awesome.
And their shooting's a little...
I think think about how good the Chaos Cultist units are in Slaves to Darkness.
Yeah.
These guys fill that similar role.
This is also an army that I don't know that, maybe other than Seraphon, I don't know that you can buff units better than Cities of Sigmar. I think they...
Maybe Bone Reapers. Maybe Bone Reapers have their number.
Maybe
they're very
Bone
similar.
Reapers.
Reading that book, I was like, oh, this is like good guy Bone Reapers.
Yeah. Just so much buffing. So many ways to get these guys to be kind of an interesting turn 1 problem for your opponent.
Yeah.
And they are battle line.
Yeah.
Which is nice. Meanwhile, the Gorgers, I just looked in the book here. They're not great. No. I'm not going to take Gorgers in my Beast Claw Raiders, but...
Cool new sculpts, though.
They are cool new sculpts.
Let's see some... What are the Yetis called? They're just called the Yetis?
Yeah.
Let's see some...
Icefall Yetis?
Yeah, let's see some of those in a
yes.
crab box.
Oh, man, I like those. Although also not good. Now, the other thing is, I was looking at this Maw Pit.
Oh, yeah, it's like an alternate version of the Maw Pit, which is super
the
cool.
pot, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how correct I think you are. Now, I'm wondering if have they released Sigmar rules for this?
I think it has the exact same rules as the existing one. It's just an alternate version of it because you can't get that one anymore.
It also almost looks like it has the same footprint.
Yeah, I think it's literally like they've done more one in line with Go, where it's like, oh, they've built the pit out and the cauldron out of bone this time.
Yeah, they're like barbecuing instead of making soup.
Yeah.
Well, that's good for me because I will confess that during Nova I had to pack my Maw Pot in my suitcase, not my army case, and it got annihilated.
That'll happen.
So maybe that's great. I can retire it and use this thing.
Yeah, I honestly, I would like to see them do more of that. Honestly, now that they've kind of established this, I'm like, oh yeah, like do alternate versions of some of the cool terrain pieces.
Can we talk about Cities people being like, we don't have faction terrain. Ogres already. Why didn't they put a Cities faction terrain piece in here?
I mean, there's a lot. Like Stormcast never got one.
A lot don't.
Yeah, there's a lot, and it's kind of. I don't know whether it was a aesthetic thing, like they went through a phase of let's do terrain pieces. Terrain pieces are cool, which they are, but then they realized that it's another it's another thing on the line. For a faction, it's kind of a mandatory. If you're doing a faction with one, you almost always get it.
But then
it's like an extra cost for an army. So
we were talking about this a couple weeks back, and I was saying to Brett when him and I were making our own, I was making the Gloomspite gets one out of pink foam. Brett was doing the Realmscaper engine. Which the Realmscaper engine is the same size exactly. It's just more cracked and ruined. It's perfect for Coalesced.
It looks awesome, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm now realizing that's what they're doing. They're sneaking alternate sculpts in there.
Yeah. And I assume the reasoning is because they're really hard to get, the originals. Like they don't make them
that's what I'm wondering.
anymore.
Why don't they? I mean, because everyone just buys them. It's 0 points. Like, why doesn't every army have one, and why don't they keep them in stock? Are they trying to create it?
I don't know if they make them. I don't know if they're made in the UK.
They might. Okay.
It's like the endless spells. They're a different plastic. They're a different mold. I wonder if they got them like externally made, and those contracts or those molds just ran out. Or something.
A lot of the terrain is not made in the UK.
So that's probably I don't know, but if I had to guess, that's probably why. And maybe this is them correcting that. Maybe they're bringing them in house and doing new sculpts while they're at it, so that they can produce them on their end because they've got the second factory now. And
got it.
But again, I'm totally guessing. I don't know anything about anything, but that would be...
But they're good guesses, and you are from the UK.
I am, yeah. So I obviously know everyone who lives
Hey, actually, I have a question.
Oh, yeah, okay.
As an American, is that... Because it's really actually pretty cool that this kind of stuff is made in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's unusual.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there is more manufacturing in the Western world than people realize.
Yeah.
Especially medical things, contact lenses.
But like
and,
anything technology, a lot of
right.
like industrial products are usually made
and
somewhere
plastic
else.
toys.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why Games Workshop, like during the pandemic, they were one of the top, I don't know what the metrics are, but they were one of the most successful businesses through the pandemic. Like they actually grew in the pandemic, where every other business shrank.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that was attributed to the fact that they had everything in house.
Tight little, yeah.
They could do everything. They didn't need anyone else. The production, like, because the supply chain's completely dismantled.
Right.
They didn't really need them as much.
Can you? Where is the manufacturing? Is it
In Nottingham?
It's in Nottingham.
Yeah.
When you tour, can you see that?
I don't think so. They used to.
But they don't keep it.
Yeah,
under wraps
they
now.
used to, but now they don't. But yeah, the
now some guy comes in a privateer pressure and is taking pictures.
Yeah,
like, get out.
Well, there is this might have changed now, but when they built the new Warhammer world and the new section of the building, you could used to go and like see the production area, but I think one of them is still in that building, but then the new one, the big factory, is I think it's down the road.
Okay.
But it's all, as far as I'm aware, it's all in Nottingham still.
I'm a little sad as a cat and dog person. Mm-hmm. I'm a little sad sending dogs into battle, especially in a unit that is probably almost every game going to die.
I don't know. Have you ever seen John Wick? The dogs in those movies, they have everyone's number.
Oh, have you ever seen No Country for Old Men?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
That's terrible. Getting chased by that pit bull.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah, that's right. And that's actually, these are like
they are. Yeah.
So they're almost like, yeah, okay. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. Super cool. I have to say, I almost cannot keep up with the news. What's going on with Cruel Boys? I feel like sometimes they're horrible. Sometimes they're winning tournaments. They have new models come out. They had an ally. I don't know what is going on with
Sorry,
Cruel
on
Boys.
brand for them as a faction.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
Absolute chaos.
No, nothing makes any sense. These look cool. They're hunting monsters now. Haven't they always been kind of good at that?
Yeah, I love the guy with his he's just wearing
a monkey.
All sorts of random stuff on him. He's got eggs and he's got a skull and he's got what looks like a monkey skin. And then he has monkeys.
Eggs are popping up as themes. Yeah, and what are these just gorillas? Are
these big howling baboon monster things? It's actually kind of surprising how much they've lent into the whole area,
making eggs, having war having
yeah. The egg things is a bit weird, but
if one more faction comes out with eggs, it's gonna be something's going on.
Why does Seraphon have eggs? Surely they are anyone who's gonna have a bunch of eggs, right? They don't come out of eggs.
I want to see another war cry band with eggs. Come on.
What pet would a Seraphon warband have? Because
oh my god! I mean, you name it, little dinosaurs.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be like humans having a pet human as a pet? Wouldn't it seem a bit weird? If the Seraphon have got a pet dinosaur as a.
But aren't there smart dinosaurs and stupid ones? They ride. They already ride other dinosaurs, and they're not very dinosaurs, right? They're.
Are we saying that Saurus are intelligent? Because they don't seem particularly intelligent.
I think that they know. I think that they probably are very smart chimpanzees. You could hire Saurus for a particular job.
Could you?
You wouldn't really hire Saurus to work IT. No, IT maybe, but not
okay.
Just ripping on IT people right now.
Well,
not code, not an engineer. They're not going to do code. You know what I bet they could do is I bet they could be hipster who brew their own beer.
You think Seraphon, you think the Saurus are big into craft beers?
Yeah, they might be.
That's what they do all day when they're not going to war. They just sit around the temple ships talking about the latest brews.
Yeah. The Coalesce especially, man. This is cool too. I'm probably not going to pick this up quite yet. I have a lot of this train. I'd like to do more with it. I don't know. Looks amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. Although I have thought about us talk. Did we did this last week? We did, me.
We did look at that last week.
Okay.
Yeah. It was
I've slept on it and I've decided you absolutely cannot have an AOS game with that amount of terrain. It's tiny. There's so little of it.
No, you're probably right. I think I think personally, as a big proponent of pink foam, I'd say that with some pink foam and with some scatter, maybe.
Yeah, this is like a scatter terrain box with maybe two good pieces of terrain. But I mean, cool scatter though.
Yeah, it is good scatter. Did we
Oh,
do
are they
it?
doing a bunch of? Are they doing go up a bit? You missed a. Are they doing a bunch of Shadespire warbands or something? No.
No, I think they're.
Oh, they're
this is just
releasing
like,
the. They're releasing like the wave of.
No, I think this is
Shadespire.
right here. I think this is literally just them showing you the other things you can buy.
Yeah, but they're re-releasing the Underworld's warbands just as the models standalone. They always do. They did this for the
Oh,
first
right,
year.
because this isn't. That's right. I bought these for the daughters off eBay because I wanted. I have 2 squads of Shadow Stalkers.
So
and
you
I
wanted the different.
I wanted the different lady.
Yeah, she's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are nice pickups if you didn't, because they're really hard to get the warbands if you don't grab them on like. The
Oh, and I have
month.
this. I have the ogre guy too. I redid him to make an Ice Barrel Hunter, but Ice Barrel Hunters are not good, so I stopped.
Yeah.
He's built and base coated, and he's going to sit over there for the next 2 years. Okay, cool. I think that's it for AOS stuff.
Yeah.
Which means we can get into talking about the meat and potatoes of today.
Yeah.
Now I did. I apologize at home, folks. I did mean to make a graphic that popped up and said all the our criteria. And again, our criteria are just that the book is cool, which means playability. I think I love what you said. We really focused on. Does the book feel like what you would expect? Like you read their lore, you see the pictures of them, and you're like, I have a thought now. If I've never played AOS,
Yeah.
I have a thought of how this army should work. Right?
Yeah.
That is it fun?
Yeah.
And is there variety within the book,
Yeah.
or is it really bad internal balance?
Yeah. Oh yeah, internal balance was another one, and then fun for you, fun for your opponent.
Yeah.
Does it feel like the lore? Yeah.
So here we go. We have the traditional S to D tier ranking system. As you can see, there's like a weird line cut through the middle of this. Oh, I think I know what it is. Okay. All right, there we go. Okay, that's better. Now, what we did, Steven and I, is we ranked these based on we're going to do the order of their release. Which will be fun, I think, for everybody at home because it'll be like another trip down memory lane. Like
Yeah,
we did
this is
last week.
looking back at all of 3rd edition.
All of 3rd edition. Now, thanks to Soups. Soups, thank you as
Thanks,
always.
Soups.
Big supporter of the channel. A fellow countryman of yours. I'm doxing where he's from. You guys only
I know,
have
I liked him.
a few million people over there.
Yeah.
Are there more? How many people live in the UK?
Oh, I don't
Is
know.
it more than California? It's got to be.
What, in the entire country?
Yeah.
Yeah.
California's like 38 million.
Yeah, England is more than that.
Okay. And thank you, Jules. I just hope they re-release Morgoth's Crushers. I mean, I'm sure they will.
Who are they?
Are these? I'm guessing these are Iron Jaws. It sounds like Iron Jaws.
Morgoth's Crushers. Oh yeah, I think they were one of the Iron Jaws ones because Iron Jaws have had like 3 now.
Yeah, they have had a few. I have to believe that they will.
Yeah, I assume
Yeah, at
so.
some point. Which means Stormcast are first, Steven. So,
Yeah.
where does this book? What do you think about this book? Oh,
So
out of the gate.
I'm gonna make some people.
We don't
sad.
have all the books here. It'd be very fun if we could sit here and do this for every book. But
So this is my favorite Stormcast book.
Okay.
And I played Stormcast, so Stormcast was the faction
it's like
I
a
played.
big Steven army. Yeah.
Yeah, I played them since like the original AOS. Like as soon as it started, I got the starter box. They've been a faction of mine that I've enjoyed. I've played them every edition. This is definitely my favorite. However, the internal balance in this book is completely bonkers.
Yeah.
Completely, utterly bonkers. There are like
it is.
4 units in this book that do 99.9% of the work.
Yeah.
And everything else just kind of doesn't do anything.
Now, let me play devil's advocate on that concept for a moment. The 4 units you're talking about are probably Stormdrake Guard,
Stormdrake Guard,
Draconith Guard,
Draconith Guard.
Fulminators, and maybe Concussors.
Well, just all of them. I think
All of them
are
are pretty good, except for the melee horde clearing one.
Yeah, they're not. They're probably the
I forget,
weakest.
Annihilators, maybe? Oh, no,
No.
Annihilator is a different thing.
Yeah, but they are also the next unit.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
Annihilators. And Vanguard Raptors?
Yeah, the crossbow.
The crossbow guys?
One
Yeah.
strike crossbow.
That
boys.
that in a book of 72 war scrolls.
Yeah.
Without having this conversation previously with Steven, I was able to guess the 4
Oh,
facts.
I'll add a bonus onto Celestin Prime. 5.
Celestin Prime.
5 units.
Adjudicators are okay, even without shooting the hero
Yeah,
face. I mean,
Adjudicators,
still,
yeah.
they're a little pricey. There's a few things.
Yeah.
And this is sort of why I didn't mind that component. I actually thought that while there are some things to have a hammer, you are limited.
Yes.
You're insanely limited.
Yes.
In a book, again, with 72
That's the thing.
scrolls,
If that was a list of, okay, these 5 are really good and there's only 12 scrolls, you'd be like, okay, sure, all right.
That's most books.
Yeah.
Right.
But this has like 70.
Yeah.
There are so many characters and named characters and non-named characters and like infantry units that all vaguely do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like what
you were the one who first pointed out to me that there's not really a big difference in what happens if you face 5 Vindictors or 5 Judicators.
No, there's literally
or
no
Liberators.
Yeah, no, there's like no difference.
It ends up being close to the same amount of mortal wounds.
And I think as like the poster children of the game and the army that a lot of people are gonna discover when they're introduced to the game and start with.
Yeah.
I think this is a really difficult army because you just get overwhelmed by options. Yeah.
Gosh, they need to. I would love. I'm talking about this for the whole rest of the time, but I would love to see them not do the thing we all know they're going to do, which is put this army again in the 4th edition starter box and come out with a whole. We've talked about this before. At least reinforce like paladins. At least reinforce
just
reinforce
the
another
original.
keyword.
Yes.
Something. Don't make a whole another wing of this army.
Yeah, but they will.
But
But
it'll be cool.
Yeah, but the other thing as well, like, as one of our other criteria is like the lore. The lore of these guys is that they are like the cream of the crop of humanity. Like you have to be literally about to sacrifice yourself in a no-win scenario. You have to basically be on a Kobayashi Maru, and then Sigmar plucks you and turns you into a demigod.
Yep.
These guys get murdered by goblins. These guys get absolutely punted by goblins.
Any kind of mortal wound is a big problem.
Anything with a stiff breeze, these guys will die to. And I'm like, they do not feel like demigods of Sigmar on the table.
Do they need the 5-up save against mortal wounds like Slaves of Darkness have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or find a way to, do something interesting with the reincarnation mechanic. That's their whole deal of like they don't die, they lightning bolt back up to the heavens and get reforged and come back. Build more of that in. Like they just play on the army in a very generic way.
So you have put these at the bottom. I put them a little bit up. I almost like this flexibility that you can build around Stormdrake Guard or Draconith Guard. And then it doesn't really matter. You want to take Invocators, you want to take Liberators, you want to take Vindictors. What have you got laying around? Whatever's on eBay for real cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, if you wanna get a 2,000 point army together and just play Sigmar and without any kind of regard for anything, like this is such a cheap army to play because you can find it everywhere for cheap.
Okay. Next up release.
Warclans.
Orc Warclans. I have to say this is a tough one to do because, in some ways, because it has 3-4 books in it, really. Yeah. Not unlike Gloomspite gets. It has, you have Iron Jaws, you have...
Yep.
Iron Jaws have been hurting for a while, and I don't mean just competitively, although obviously competitively, but they don't feel, again, I just keep saying this last tournament game I played against Teresa, and we had 2 run and smash each other armies, and she just really couldn't smash me.
No.
And I mean, she was playing great. Just their cute movement tricks seem to make up for bad movement, and then they get in the combo with you, and everything's 1 damage, 2 damage, maybe.
Yep.
They don't seem to do what they're supposed to do. Cruel Boys feel like they're just eternally going to always probably be a very swingy army. They actually probably do function lore-wise as they kind of should. Yeah.
But I quite like this book, I think, a little bit more than you. Again, not from a competitive standpoint, but more from like, I like that the 3 different factions live within the same book, and you can you can play them individually, you can play them together. But look how thick that book is compared to this one. And this book has 3 armies in it. This book barely has 1 army in it.
It's true.
And so like
this book has 4 armies.
Yeah,
and
I give this props for that because it's like there's some ingenuity in there, and I think adding the new layer of Oryx into this with this edition.
Yeah.
Was like the piece of the puzzle we were missing that we didn't realize we were missing, because it really starts to paint a picture of who the Oryx are in the AOS world.
We think that Iron Jaws and Cruel Boys are probably really the 2 factions that they're interested in moving forward with heavily. Yes. It's hard to say if they're ever going to move forward with Savage Boys.
No, I think they will probably find a home back in the old world.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. And it seems to be. I mean, they've released so much Iron Jaws, as you said, War Cry bands, everything for these two, and not for Savage Boys. I think they're probably done.
And they've clearly still got room to expand because like the new wave that they did for the Iron Jaws, really cool new stuff. Looks interesting. So clearly they've got more ideas in the can of like where they can take this faction. So I think I'm excited for what we'll see from these in 4th edition. Now that they've found their feet.
We swapped these though here. You actually gave these a C. I gave these a D because I really don't think. Mostly I'm thinking Iron Jaws. You know, honestly, seeing a C, I think C is also a pretty fair grade. But Iron Jaws until recently really haven't done what they needed to do. And now it seems like maybe they will. So maybe now I bump them up quite a bit.
Yeah, and we do for, I don't know, I think you did it, but for me, I put the Iron Jaw supplement as a separate grading on here because...
We did. I didn't include it here, but I think, like, if we talked about it for a minute, yeah, I probably would bump them up closer to... Then now they start to feel like they can smash. I'd probably put them closer to... You had them as an A.
I did. I think the new supplement is fantastic. And I think, if that was in here from the get-go, or they'd released it when they released this wave, I think this book would have been a solid A. And I think we'd have seen it all over the place for the entirety of 3rd edition. So I think it really does round them out in a way that feels good.
Okay, so... Pretty grim so far.
Not, Umi, I'm dead to Umi, so that's fine.
But, the thing is, these two books came out first, and we were happy with these two. It was there was some serious... We think there was some codex creep, power-wise, but also interest and diversity-wise as well.
They feel very safe.
They feel very safe.
Very safe, very conservative books.
So all 40k players out there who are a little disappointed with Tyranids and Space Marines, which are actually your two armies, right? As well.
Well, again, I wouldn't say...
Well, you have those, but yeah.
I do, but I mean...
Yeah. When you play. When you dabble.
If I play or dabble. But just come back in 2.5 years' time. There'll be some awesome things, I imagine.
Be some supplements.
Yeah.
Next up is Magakin.
Oh, you don't have the Magakin book?
I don't have the Magakin book.
It, but yeah.
You, I think, gave these guys a pretty high rating. I can pull your ratings up.
Well, I mean, so Magakin, they were an early book, but man, I was so hyped when that book came out because I didn't play them, but I've got 2 close friends who played them a lot.
Mm-hmm. We've borrowed your friend Brad's
collection. Brad's army that we've had on stream. That was his. And what I love about that book is that it is 100% lore to gameplay.
Yeah.
Like, it is like, they play like Nurgle on the tabletop in every way you would expect Nurgle to play. And I was like, if this is what Sigmar is going to look like, I am stoked.
The Wheel of Contagion is cool.
Yeah.
It tends to be kind of good without being, like, broken. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff going on in this book.
They have quite a few different ways to play. You can kind of go all demons, you can go all mortals, you can kind of do a mix, and all of them feel cool and play differently.
Yeah.
And,
I will say, I tend to find that this book, I've played it in a few games, and I do tend to find that the disease mechanic probably needs some rework. It's essentially half a mortal wound.
Yeah, it's not
and you're putting
great.
And not that I wouldn't necessarily think this would be powerful, but the book moves kind of slow.
Yeah.
It wants to pin you in, but it's not necessarily fast enough to do that until it was with the Drowned Men.
That's the thing. Like,
and then it was kind of broken. It had to be nerfed. It was like too unfun.
Yeah, Nurgle can the fact that a Nurgle book can Alpha Strike you turn 1 from orbit was kind of like a wild thing to witness. Like, you expect them to be slow and pondering, and they're just like in your face turn 1.
I played against that army, and not this past Old Town Throwdown, but last year, previously 2022. And it was really unfun to play against, I have to say. So they have fixed it. Right?
Yeah, that is why I don't think I put it at the top, because I think there's a couple of things that knock it. And one is fun playability, because if you just have an army that cannot deal damage, that is going to be a miserable game.
Yeah.
Or if you play an also unkillable army, like me and Brad have famously had an OBR Maggot King game that was like 7.5 hours long.
Night Haunt.
Yeah,
versus these guys is going to be miserable.
And the other thing is just
because
variety.
This army doesn't actually do a lot of damage.
No, not really. It kind of just wants the game to go all 5 turns, and then the ticks of the disease will probably pull them ahead. Which again feels like Nurgle.
Feels great.
Super awesome.
So I have mixed feelings. I ended up putting this one at B. You put it at A.
Yeah,
what
I
we
feel
have.
I look back fondly at the Maggot Kid release. I
It
think
crept up though, yeah.
yeah, as the first release after the original two, I was really impressed with this book. I think the only thing that like drops it from the S is that yeah, it can be not fun to play against. There's a lot of bookkeeping going on,
A lot of bookkeeping.
and there's just not a huge variety in units. Like they didn't really get any new units.
There's some real clear, obvious winners too.
Yeah.
Um, like in general, you take the mortals on the flies. Nobody really takes the demons on the flies. They're not bad, or just the
Yeah.
flies by themselves.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that as a hobby project, it's really fun because you can paint everything different colors, but like you're going to be painting the same model many times.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
only really three groups of models. It's flies, demons, blight kings.
Yeah.
That's kind of it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so next is Fire Slayers.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell me about Fire Slayers.
I've played against Fire Slayers multiple times. I think this army has model line issues.
Whatever do you mean, sir?
Well, it's just too many of the. Until recently, we saw the Warcry band, right? Came and
Yeah.
we loved it, but like I want to see more of that.
Yeah.
Right now, it's got some model line issues, and it's got too many of the units and too many little foot characters that do the same thing. That said, if you want a collection of shirtless foot dwarves that are crazy,
Yeah.
this army does feel it's good.
Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
into dwarfs, they are the faction.
It doesn't have a lot of variety within the book.
Nope.
You're either doing Magnadroths, not Magnadroths, or somewhere in the middle. That's probably the way I'm guessing most Fire Slayer players look at how
Yeah.
they approach their list.
Or the unkillable, unchargeable blobs of infantry that
Yeah.
just make you question every decision you make on the tabletop.
Right. So I feel like also I have to say that their fight first mechanic a little unfun to play against.
Yes.
Now Deepkin are a little different with theirs, and we're gonna get the Deepkin next because
Yeah,
they came
they're
after this.
next,
But
yeah, they were the two.
Fire Slayers was very challenging to play with the two armies that I tended to play, which is Ogres, Beastclaw Raiders, and then Daughters, because these you ended up needing to go into them.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got hit by something that could actually do a lot of damage
Yeah.
before you, and there's very little you can do about it.
Yep.
So that felt not great. And I don't know, like Marathi doesn't really necessarily care. Maybe a modern ogre probably in this book, it was the old book, probably doesn't, maybe I don't care. I can Tokyo drift into a character or whatever, but
Yeah.
I didn't like that mechanic as much.
It's a bit of an odd one.
Yeah.
You know.
There's some situations where you're pretty much just screwed. You're like,
Yeah.
well, I've got to fight them,
Yeah.
but if I send my stuff in, I'm gonna get wrecked.
And you're right, it can be unfun to play against, but I think it had to be a thing because, like you say, the variety of units is so little that they don't really have any play styles that they can diversify with. So they've just got to make them. Yeah, they're slow.
They're not getting off all their charges. They're not getting off a lot of charges.
Yeah, so it's like they had to get something, and they're an interesting army. I don't even know how fun they are to play with. Like I genuinely. I've thought about them a couple of times, being like, "Oh, would this be a fun army to do?" And then I read the book and I look at kind of how people play them. I'm like, this just doesn't look fun to play.
Yeah, I agree.
But people, you know, there's obviously people out there love them.
You put them in B, I put them in C.
Yeah, I think I put them at B just because I don't feel like the book is designed poorly. I do feel like there is some thematic synergy with how the lore is and how they play.
Yeah.
And I do like that what they do have, even though it's limited, it does do cool and interesting things.
Yeah.
And I like their rune mechanic, and I like the guy who kind of like collects the souls and then like uses them to buff other units.
Yeah.
There's some cool stuff going on there. Definitely, I think that for me, the jump from 2 to 3. Like 2nd edition Fire Slayers to 3rd edition was huge.
Good.
Like they added so much more interesting nuance to them. But I think you're right. I think the big holdout is that there's just not a lot of units and options.
It is a tight book, and it's pretty easy to wrap your head around. But I hit next for this already.
Oh, spoilers!
Spoilers. Deepkin. We actually gave him the same rings as we gave Fire Slayers. I gave Deepkin this list because while there are a lot of cool things going on with Deepkin, this is, first of all, I've maintained still that I think it's the hardest army to play.
Agreed. I would agree.
I love the way that they have this timing mechanic. It's very unique. It's insanely unique. Lots of armies can get really powerful geographically, meaning in space. Here, right now, I'm really good with this. My hammer coming into your hammer, and I've got the right buffs up. Yeah. Boom. This game is mine.
Yeah.
This army does it with time. It's turn 3, right? Or whenever they fight first. They hit really hard. They have no defense. This army disappeared. You look the fact that I still can't get over the Kelly King having 7 wounds. When I first saw them, I was like, for sure, 12 wounds, 10 wounds, 10 wounds, right?
Yeah.
It is fragile.
It is, yeah.
And
but like the theming is great.
The theming
is amazing. The model range, I still say, is probably model for model the best range in Age of Sigmar. That entire range
that or
is
Lumineth.
stunning.
It's probably that or Lumineth for me. Yeah.
Yep.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
And like the way it plays is very unique and fits very well with like how they're portrayed and what they're all about. And they've got flying sharks and turtles and you know, I think it's a very cool army.
The players of Deepkin are always I always like the people I play, but they're always they're concentrating.
Yeah, it's a hard army. I think that's why it's like it's a B for me, because like I think everything apart from the player on the table is like an S. Like fiction, models, theme, all great, all incredible, 10 out of 10.
Lots of different playstyle. You can check into turtles, sharks.
Loads of different playstyles, especially in the 3rd edition book. This book was really good. But what brings it down is like, it's just such a... You make one mistake, it's over. Like, they're such a hard army to play, and they're very hard to play against, because they will punish mistakes.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing, yeah. It puts both players on, like, what's going on here, right?
And it's stressful.
Yeah, it's stressful.
Like, when you just put 2 destruction armies on the board, you're just like, wow, moving things, rolling dice.
Not stressful.
You put Deacon on the board, you're like, oh man, I gotta... You know, it's like going from playing bowling to playing, like, snooker. It's like, oh, you got to think about this. Yeah. This is all.
I don't know what snooker is, but I can imagine. Yeah.
It's like pool for grown-ups.
Okay. All right, I almost did it again. Okay, next is Daughters of Cain, an army both you and I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People are probably thinking we're going to slam this into S and just be like, Marathi's the GOAT, next book.
Yeah. I honestly, there are so many ways to play this book. You and I we got to be careful here to get through this. We could talk on this one a while. I off the top of my head, I guess I just wish that Doomfire Warlocks and the snake lady who's the warrior made more sense. Like, I wanted to take them. Other than that, it's really good internal balance.
Yes.
You can go witch elves. You can go snake ladies. They're both good.
Yep.
You could I love the.
It's got heroes that actually feel like they do different things. Yep. It's not just the same hero. Like all of them kind of fill different roles.
Very different, right? Yeah. You got you got 2 interesting priests. Yep. You can put them on the cart. The cart's cool.
Yeah.
Of course, Marathi. It feels like this book, though. For me, the downside of the Daughters book is that I don't like that. I really feel like if I don't take Marathi, I probably won't give even like a casual player who's played a few games, been playing for a while, that good of a game.
Yeah, the fun factor of playing versus playing against is definitely a notch against that book, because Marathi is so dominant.
You've either got Marathi, which feels a little unfun for your opponent often, or you don't have Marathi, which means like, you know, the army doesn't really have screens.
No.
Like it's everything's expensive, and you need it to do a thing.
Yeah.
And you can't really throw like 10 witch elves up and be like, here's my screen.
No, you need those.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but I think the other thing for me as well is that there's not a lot of... There is good internal balance, but there isn't a lot of choice.
Right.
There's not a lot of units. And honestly, I really hope that if they just took everything that makes this book good and just weave it into the Umbraneth when they come out and rebuild that faction,
sure, cool.
I think that'd be amazing. But
that'd be cool.
I think, because right now I think it's generous calling it a book, because honestly it's kind of a pamphlet.
Yeah.
It is a thin book.
Yeah, it's a thin book. It's not very many units.
No. So where do you end up putting this? I don't even remember.
Yeah, I put it... I think I put it in B. Oh, wait. I'm back one. Did we forget Nighthaunt? Oh, we gotta do Nighthaunt.
Oh, did we forget Nighthaunt? Yeah, we were just so excited to talk Daughters.
Let's talk Nighthaunt.
All right, Nighthaunt. It's the C.
yeah. Here we go. Now, I do want to talk Nighthaunt, because I literally am starting to paint Nighthaunt. Let's talk Nighthaunt. Daughters, by the way, I put in C, you put in B.
Yeah.
I keep being like one under you.
I can't believe
on
you
all
put
these.
them in C.
Yeah. So daughters.
Yeah.
Well, for what you said, it's not a lot of model units, and again, I feel like I don't have a ton of options. Like I said, I just I
There's
want
not a lot to choose from.
and if I don't take Marathi, I could not take Marathi and play against a beginner.
Yep.
I cannot take Marathi and play against, even someone who's also agreeing to take, like, I can see, oh, your Skavenless isn't going to be that good.
They're also another, like, feel bad army, because you can just roll. If someone isn't prepared for them, you will just destroy them.
I do not. So literally, I've been helping new people play. I was helping Meg, helping Brett, Saray.
Yeah.
Our friend Andrew. I do not take my Beast Claw Raiders or my daughters. I'm always like, I need to either take the Stormcast or the Slaves of Darkness, because these Stormies are real swingy. They give you a weird impression of the game.
They do, yeah. Nighthaunt.
Nighthaunt, by contrast, my big problem with Nighthaunt, Steven, it's really one issue. It's the way they give this. It's interesting in a way that they give the army so many rules. When you hear all the rules the army has for the first time, you're like, how will anyone beat this army? They fly, they fall back in charge, 6 is wound automatically.
They do debuffs when they charge.
They tell them 3 of them can redeploy
they have great
or go
healing.
back in.
They like have recursion.
Yeah. And that's okay. And then to balance it, they kind of hit like a wet noodle. That's all still kind of okay. For me, the big problem is that the 4 sub-factions are just a little funky.
Yeah.
Especially the 2 that we all want to take, which are cool, which is Scarlet Doom and Quicksilver Dead.
Yeah.
They really tech you into one faction, to one unit.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I really have a problem with that. It's just very unusual. No other book quite does that.
Yeah.
So Deepkin maybe a little bit.
No, I agree, and I think that's my big issue with the book is it's full of these again, talk about ranges that are just incredible. Like I feel like the Nighthorn range is just them showing off, because it's like it's immaculate. It's so good and it's so dynamic. But yeah, the book is like, oh hey, you like those skelly ball? You like those ghost men with swords? Well, do 60 of them.
Exactly.
And then the other one's like, oh hey, you like these ones? Do 50 of them. And it's like, it makes it really hard to try out new things and switch between things, because you have to spam the one unit each one wants you to spam, and it's kind of it's bad.
By contrast, you can do Emerald Host, which is good.
Yeah, Emerald Host is cool.
It's fine. And Grieving Legion, which is the one with all the cool characters and stuff, its rule is just quite bad.
Yeah.
You would not really ever take that. Now, you can tell that, by the way, GW has almost no sense of what's going on with this, because here's Scarlet Doom. This is the chapter where you tech into Bladegeist Reverends.
Yep.
And here's a glowing red Dreadscythe Heritage.
Yes.
Which is actually what you take down here in Quicksilver Dead.
Yes.
And there they have a Banshee. So even they weren't thinking when they did the art, they were like, nah, don't put a Bladegeist Reverend for their image. That'll make people think they need it. Like we're not going to figure it out.
I know, it's because like contrast, Daughters of Cain, the book does that quite well, because it's like, oh, in the faction that talks about you want bow snakes in that one, like
there's a bow snake in the
lady,
picture.
It's like, and so no, that's fun.
Yeah,
it's an interesting book. I like the tech. I think they play how I imagine a swarm of ghosts would play, like the swarming in and out, and fear is a cool mechanic. So I like everything that they're doing. I just wish the book encouraged more variants, because they actually do have quite a big range.
Yeah,
See a lot
lots of models.
Yeah. Oh, and they need to make the coach good. The fact that the coach is bad is a sin, because that model is beautiful.
This army needs a monster. And
it needs a monster.
It needs a monster.
Yeah.
I mean, like a dual build kit, something. Okay, here we go. Skaven is next.
Right. Okay. This is easy.
This is easy. We both have this very low.
Yeah.
And for me, I like that. I'm always just gonna use Matt Rose as the person. As soon as he did all this. Me too. I like that he tried something different with how the army subfaction organization works.
Yep.
Very interesting. It does, however, unfortunately, really force spamming. Again, it really encourages. It's done in a way, and maybe that's okay. It seems to be a theme. Right here, literally right here in this chunk, it's a theme, because Daughters are the same way. The subfactions are like, your witch elves now do this.
They definitely go through phases. Like you look at each year, and there's definitely phases of favored design.
Because we're about to get to, after this, Sylvaneth, which does the same thing. It's like literally from Deepkin to Sylvaneth are all encouraging attacking into one particular unit.
But my big problem with Skaven was just that I was expecting them to do a big facelift and give them lots of unique rules and make it feel like, like what they've done with a lot of third edition armies, and it felt like they just copy pasted everything from the previous edition into a new cover and then did so many sub factions that
I wasn't familiar with. But what I see when I see the book is really strong encouragement. Like, you want to take the giant rat monster,
yeah,
probably should take 3 of them.
Yeah.
And the thing that's really cool that happens with them, it happens on a 5-up.
Yeah,
there's a lot of that too. There's a lot of like, once your Doom wheel to do its thing, better roll good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and which
that's always been kind of their thing, right?
Yeah, Skaven, it's like the sort of randomized chaos of Skaven.
Yeah.
It's kind of like part of their hallmark. But yeah, I think there's 2 issues. There's the fact that it didn't really feel like the book got a lot of innovation in this edition, like a lot of the other factions. They felt like the children that got neglected this edition. And they also, their range is just too big. They have a million kids.
Yeah. I want to see randomization that's fun in a way that's like makes you, it happens early enough in the turn or whatever that you're sort of like randomization, how much damage is done, that's fine.
Sure.
Randomization and what the AP is, something like that, that's fine. Randomization and whether your plan works and wipes out like a quarter of your opponent's army, or doesn't work and it blows up and you just lost your mom, that I don't like as much. I want to see randomization that does something like almost like Kato, right? Like Kato and Soulblight. He's not randomized, but he can pick to either be good at magic or be good at... Like, I almost want to see randomization that makes you go, okay, well, I guess I'm going to try this turn or whatever.
Yeah, but it's a slippery slope because you don't want them to get, like... Because I think you can make them consistent, and I think that's a problem. Because I think Skaven, the whole thing about Skaven is they're meant to be, like, backstabbing each other, and all their equipment is crazy volatile, and, it's all blowing up, and their magic's crazy. Yeah. They're all on, like, green
drugs.
Cocaine.
Yeah.
So, like... I want that to feel like it's on the tabletop. Yeah. I kind of wish they would bring back like animosity, but for Skaven. I am really glad they got rid of the fact that in second edition you could just make Skaven fearless. You were just like, I don't care about morale, and I'm like, that's literally what this army is meant to be about.
Weakness.
Its Achilles heel is meant to be that they're terrified,
they run away.
But they did bring that back, which was nice. Like morale actually does really hurt Skaven now, which is it should. But yeah,
John McCarter, quick thank you as always for the gifted memberships. It means a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool to see all the different names in here. All right, Steven, we need to. Maybe we should do. Should we do this? Should we do the other half of this list next week?
Can.
Maybe
are we at the halfway point?
No.
Where do we get to? What
We're about to do Sylvanas.
Let's get to Suns and then end, because I think that's about the halfway point if my eyes work.
Okay. Well, here, we'll finish this slide. Remember, I had to make 2 slides?
Okay.
So we're almost there. Okay, so...
Oh, yeah, okay.
Next,
so Sylvaneth.
Oh, I hit the button again by accident. Sylvaneth. Okay. But this was... You and I agreed on this?
Yeah.
And pretty up high here. This
Sylvaneth
is our highest ranking.
Sylvaneth are awesome.
Sylvaneth are awesome. I think... I love the sub-factions are different.
Yep.
And what's so cool is the 2 layers of sub-factions.
Yes.
You pick the season, too.
I love that. I love that you pick the season and you pick the grove that they're from. It's super flavorful.
It's almost like in 40K and 9th Ed when they had the 2 little you could pick if you didn't want to be one particular a Saryani chapter, you don't want to be Simon, you could go in and pick 2 little things to do to your army.
Yeah.
And that's what they've done here. One of them does sort of tech in 2 units, but the other one really doesn't.
Yeah.
Right? One of them the actual sub-faction tends to tech into either Karnath Hunters or big big tree guys. But actually not even all of them do that.
No, not really.
It's just those 2 that I named.
Yeah. And you find that even like in the armies, even if you've teched into a sub-faction, you find a good spread of units in the armies. Like they're always...
They feel like they match their lore.
Very much so. Yep.
Playing them is a completely unique experience.
Yeah.
Honestly, I end up playing Sylvaneth all the time, and I can't count on doing well against them, or it goes both ways for me.
Yeah, and they're I think they're fun to play with, and I think they're fun to play against.
Yeah.
I think the only reason they're not in S on that front is because
what's keeping them out of S for you?
It's the fact that you can I've had some pretty unfortunate games where my opponent has just teleported Durthu into my army and killed everything on turn 1, and it's like, well, and then it teleports away and you can't do anything, and I'm like,
you gotta learn.
Yeah, that you really have to understand how, even if you are a player and you have no interest in Sylvaneth, if you don't learn and understand how the book works and how the units work, they will just tear you apart. Like, they are very unforgiving.
Yeah. And the biggest thing is you just do the same. You have to absolutely run into them and murder them as fast as possible.
And I think the other thing,
which isn't hard to do.
No, no.
They can only teleport so much.
Yeah.
Things start getting left behind, and then but you're right. You have to learn against everyone's first game against a good Sylvaneth player.
Yeah.
Who knows what they're doing? There's no way.
And even I know what they do, and I try and anticipate them, and they still sometimes just pull me apart.
A good player will,
Yeah. And then the other things really are the over-reliance on terrain. I hate the fact that you have to own at least 2 or 3
the board
forests.
ends up looking ridiculous.
Yeah, the board gets full really fast, which I think they've definitely, they're on the right path to correcting it, but I think there's more work to be done.
Smashing the terrain needs to do more than what it currently does. It currently does nothing. You're like, I always ask him, like, what if I Monstrous Rampage smash this forest?
Yeah.
And like, all we'll stop doing is the D3 mortal wounds to you. It's like, that's nice, but it needs to shut it down.
Yeah.
But also, it kind of lore-wise makes sense why it doesn't.
Yeah, it's
true.
you
really... Can a Stonehorn really smash a forest to pieces
probably.
To the extent that a Sylvaneth wouldn't be interested anymore?
I reckon given time, if it had enough time. And then I think the only other thing is that the model range is like, some of it's amazing and beautiful, some of it's a bit old.
Yeah, some of the little troops are...
Yeah.
But it's okay.
It's fine.
You can make it work with paint. All right, Tzeentch is up next.
Tzeentch.
I confess there are a few books that I don't know that well. This one is one that I don't know. I almost don't know too well. So it's like right on the border. I've played it twice. Once in the old book, once in the new book. I think both times my opponent didn't have a great handle on it. And I'm not sure that I did either. And I think I just ran at him and did my Stonehorn thing.
Yeah.
Or I think it was Daughters the second time. How do you feel about this book?
Yeah, I mean, the book is really interesting. I think it feels very Tzeentchy. I think they did a really good job of like harnessing what makes Tzeentch unique, and I think that comes out in the book. Like the lore to gameplay, I think is quite solid.
Okay.
I think the sub-factions give a good variety. Like, I love the sub-faction that's all about summoning greater demons.
Well, but the problem is that's like the one, right? Again,
that's the one.
That's the one, and that's a problem. That's a knock against
Yeah.
the book, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. And I think...
You hate, even though we're not talking about competitive, you hate being in a tournament and scrolling down and seeing Tzeentch and Summoner's Guild. No, you don't see like the other
I love it,
ones.
because I just pull them apart.
Well, sure, but you want to see a variety. You want to see that people are taking.
You do. You want to see different, because I think there is untapped potential in that book.
Yeah.
I think everyone's just like got tunnel vision, a bit like what happened with Seraphon, of just like, oh, this is the build. Let's focus on
but
this.
But untapped potential, I agree. Yeah.
I think so. But why it doesn't get super high up there is because the model range is jank. I do not like the model range basically at all, apart from the mortals and like the
mortals
newer
are
stuff,
cool.
The new Zangors and the mortals are really cool, but like I hate the demons. I think the demons are just...
You're not a fan of pink horrors?
They're really old.
Screamers?
And that's the other reason it gets knocked down, because that unit exists. Pink horrors is a joke.
Screamers are also annoying.
Yeah.
I hate that everybody hates the like move. I did mortal wounds to everything. Everybody hates that.
Yeah, they do, and I think that's why it also will never get to the S tier, because it's like, it's really hard to play, it's really finicky, there's a million things happening, there's so much to track, and everything is kind of annoying to deal with. Like the screamers, the horrors, the greater demons.
We both put it at B.
Yeah, I think it's a perfectly viable middle of the road book. It's thematic, it's on point, it does stuff that you expect Tzeentch to do.
It's awesomely thematic.
It is
cool.
But man, is it like, it can be a grind to play against, and it can be very frustrating. And it's really prone, I've found, to gotcha mechanics. Like, they seem to always find ways to exploit the hell out of that book.
Again, you have to know it.
Yeah.
But the gotchas in Sylvaneth don't feel that bad.
No, they don't.
Okay, next is a dud, unfortunately, which is Sons of Behemoth.
Yeah, okay.
You have some takes on this army as a concept that might offend some people, but to be honest with you, based on data and polls that people take, probably not. Definitively, the two armies that people don't like are Sons of Behemoth and unfortunately for Fire Slayers players, Fire Slayers.
Yeah.
Now, whenever we would stream those games, the views were down.
Yeah.
People would go in and angrily talk about, especially Sons of Behemoth, like how angry they were in the comments. How do you feel? What do you? Where do you put these guys?
Well, I put these in F, but you were like, there is no F.
There's no F in mine,
so we're gonna put them in D. But
Yeah.
and again, look, if you like giants and you like pushing 4 models around and shouting timber and smashing shit, all power to you.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna take that away from you. And I think the giant models are breathtaking, and I think like seeing them in other factions, like when Death take them or Chaos take one, I think it's cool. I like that sometimes there's giants.
That's what you said before, Shim. You said I'd be interested in this being the only army, or sorry, not an army, but I can take a giant. In
Like regiments of renown. Like if they were just a regiment of renown where you could every faction had a cool giant they could take.
But well, they do have that actually, right?
They do.
Each Grand Alliance has one they can take, right?
But as an army, like a standalone army. Oh god, I just like it. I don't ever enjoy playing against them. Even when I beat them, even when they beat me, I just find it so tedious. I don't like. I don't think it like when you go to an event, you look around the tables, you see a bunch of beautiful Sigmar armies. You see like there's some troops and there's some heroes and there's some monsters.
Then
and
you just see
cavalry,
4 Gargants.
and then you just see 4 Gargants. I'm like, yeah, you can paint them beautiful. Like the one that won Golden Demon last year is
amazing.
It's
The Kraken
breathtaking.
Eater, yeah.
It's absolutely breathtaking. Like I absolutely love it as a hobbying project. But it just never feels fun to just sit across from 4 models where it's like, okay, these guys all have 30, 40 wounds. If you can't kill one a turn, you basically lose. And it feels like such a weird... Like, Knights, I get. Knights make sense, kind of. But, I don't know, I feel like I'd have a similar opinion. But, like, Gargants in here just don't feel like they belong.
So here's my follow-up question to you.
Okay.
We know that you can take other Monster Mash lists in other armies, including a Stormdrake Guard list that's, 8 Stormdrake Guard tops?
Yeah,
7,
something
maybe?
like that, yeah.
8, yeah. What if there was another army that was like this? Would you like that more or less? Like, what if there was an Order army that was, I mean, I want to say Tree Men, but we already have that. What if there was some kind of, like, Stone Giant, some kind of, something that was Order or Death, I don't know. Something else that had, like, the Knight, the Imperial versus Chaos Knight kind of vibe.
I just don't...
Not your thing.
No, I just don't think... I just think the game has to be designed to then allow that to happen, and I think it skews the game in a way that isn't healthy for the game.
It tends to again, we're going to say Matt Rose, his credit, largely, other than Gur 1, largely things are skewed against you as the player of this army, which is probably fair.
Yes, I think it is fair.
Yeah, I do agree. You put this army pretty down low. I put it a little bit higher because I do think the army, I've played this army. I would play it on Titans, and I took this army to an RTT, had barely had any games in it, played a bunch of good players, got second place in that RTT, didn't lose a game. Didn't really think all game. I mean, I have to think a little bit with my Stonehorns. These guys, it's kind of just like go forward, do damage. And that's kind of what they are. They do kind of match their lore.
Yeah, they totally do.
List building is a little more fun than you would think, but not really.
Well, actually, do they? I mean, they match the lore in the way that it's an army of giants stomping around being annoying, but like the fact that you can take that many Mega Gargants doesn't feel like that's what the lore implies. The lore kind of implies there's kind of a Mega Gargant and they have massive swaths of territory, and then they have loads of little Gargants that sort of congregate.
Underfoot, yeah. So it does talk about the foot hierarchy and being on the toe or underfoot. It talks about Kraken Eaters usually being the ones that like get them together to go do something.
That's cool.
But you know,
I like the difference. I think again, I don't want to invalidate the people's fun and
people's feelings.
Like, yeah, but it's like I think if they focus more on you get like one big cool dude and make him really good. Like the king guy that they did.
Yeah.
But then you are really restricted to smaller Gargants and other supporting units that kind of congregate around your central centerpiece. Because to me, it just feels weird. Because, you can build a Tree Man army, you can be a Magadroth army, you can do a Dragon army, but none of them are like 30 wound, like DPS checks. Yeah,
they could have taken something like Gorgers and been like, these are ex-ogres who have been excommunicated from ogre communities, and now they hang around. Oh, I can skip ads for you guys. Fun. Okay.
Oh, we skipped the ad?
Yeah, I
Sweet.
skipped the ad for everybody. Okay.
Awesome.
And now they hang around Giants. Okay, so we're a little over, but this is where you want to stop. Let's do one more, Steven, just because.
One more?
Just because it's an easy one, and we both have it rated the same.
Yeah.
And it's Lumineth.
Yes.
Beautiful. Just so. This is right out of the bat. We're gonna both actually be talking about why it's not S tier because it's A for both of us. Right?
Yes.
So really the question is, what makes it not S tier for you?
I think what makes it not S tier is, I mean, nothing about the model range, nothing about the thematic play.
No.
I think the way that the lore and the army matches up is amazing. I think a big part of it for me is there's a bit of a lack of diversity in the range and the builds that you can do with the range.
Yeah.
I wish
it's
there was
there.
more.
It's like kind of. It's not bad, but it's yeah.
Yeah, and the over reliance on like tech lists and just how much of a dominant force
and there's a
he
couple
is.
units that are cool, but you're really not gonna take like Dawn Rider, like the horses and or the kangaroos really right now.
Yeah. But really, I think really it boils down to just like the lack of. I don't think the internal balance is particularly strong in the book. I think there's real winners of the book, and then there's real units that you just never ever see.
Yeah.
And I think that's a shame because the entire range is so beautiful, and the way everything is constructed in that book and the way it all works. The book, ironically, I think promotes a kind of a synergistic army where you've kind of got a couple of everything on the board. But no one does that because Techless OP, Archers OP, and everyone just piles on those things.
Wardens,
Wardens,
which is good at least because it's about. For me, I would say what really probably keeps it out of S is it's a very intense gatekeeping army.
Yeah.
And the highest level.
Yes.
Meaning this army, most builds of this army will absolutely wreck anyone kind of new. You've been playing in your local play group and you haven't been playing Lumineth and you've done well at some RTTs. You go somewhere to a GT. Game, you're doing okay, you win your first two, you come up against Lumineth, and they're gonna wreck you.
Yeah.
If you don't know what they're doing. Once you know what they do, I honestly with my Beast Claw Raiders and Daughters, both armies sort of have a hard time losing to these two, the Lumineth almost. Of course there are players that are better than me that are always gonna beat me.
Yeah.
But anything else being equal, this army disappears.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think sometimes it can be an unfun army to play against because their play style is often I'm going to sit back here behind a wall that you can't get to and kill you with magic and ranged damage.
And I have my stupid fight when I pick. It's almost like fight.
And
it's not quite as bad, but
that doesn't feel great. I'm sure they're a really fun army to play a lot. I've enjoyed the few games I've played with them.
But like I said, I do feel that once you've got them going. Unless you're a real top level player, I think you get beat by anybody. They almost can get up to this A level and beat on anybody lower them. But a good medalist comes along and they don't really have much of a chance.
No,
or someone that just is really good with their army even. Yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad we did only half of it, so I'll have to change the description and the thumbnail and the title. But we have the other half to do. I'll spoil alert and say this is exciting. No S's yet.
I know, but
what a cliffhanger!
I know. We are just miserable.
Yeah,
miserable people that hate everything.
Yeah.
But I think the next half when we get to the second year and a half of AOS, it definitely starts to go upwards.
Yeah, you're gonna see some. There will be some S's.
There is definitely some S's.
That's what we're gonna title the stream next week. There are S's.
Yeah, there are S's, but I think looking at this and once we've got the whole picture up, you'll see a trend and a pattern of like where third edition started and how book design evolved over the course of the edition. Because the first half, there's some hits here, there's some misses, there's some decent stuff. But I would say just as a standard thing, third edition books across the board were an improvement on second edition,
which I can't speak to, but I hear.
Yeah, even the ones that feel like maybe a miss, like even Skaven and stuff like that. It's like even they all were improvements, I think.
Next week, in addition to covering this, we'll get to recap a game because you and I are going to go play a game right now.
Yeah,
which is something we thought we would be doing all the time.
Yes,
but life has just had other plans. But I get to take my Stonehorn list against Steven's Bone Reapers. An army I really hate playing. I like playing
Yeah.
Steven, but I hate playing this army. But I need practice. So
yeah,
we're
and,
gonna see.
and it took me a few weeks to kind of mourn all the points changes and then also figure out how to build a list again because they basically made changes so strategic that none of the lists I wanted to do worked. So I had to kind of figure out what to do. So I'm excited to play it. This is my first game in a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited to get the
Okay.
Boney Boys back on. Hopefully, you won't hate them as much.
Yeah, I
By the
just
end of
need
this
some
game.
good practice against them. So I'm looking forward to the game. I want, no matter what happens, I want after the game you to tell me what you're worried about when you're a Bone Reaper player going up against Stonehorns. What are you thinking you're gonna try? It's good to get into the mind of these quite frankly sick people that play this army.
Yeah, would it scare you if I have no fears or concerns going into that
I mean,
matchup?
that is kind of what I imagined. That's kind of what I imagined, but it wouldn't surprise me. That's for sure. Okay, awesome, guys. I think we did it. Next week we're gonna do the rest of this list. I'm actually excited that we ended on this cliffhanger. Yeah,
I'm glad we ended on an A, not
not
an F.
Sons of Behemoth. Yeah, I know. Awesome. So we'll see you next week, guys. Bye.
Bye.